Ever wonder why some anglers can load up on early spring crappies while others can't even get a bite? Well, there is a formula for finding and catching loads of spring slab crappies. So in this video, I'm going to show you some of the best kept secrets most anglers don't want you to know so that you could go out there and catch the fish that you deserve. Now, the first step to understanding where crappie are going to be is understanding the crappie's comfort zone. If you've been following my channel for a while, you'll know that I'm always talking about the fish's comfort, and this really has to do with water temperatures. Water temperatures are going to dictate a lot of what these fish do, especially in the early spring. So in order to understand this, we need to break up spring into the three categories that really dictate fish movement and fish behavior. And that's going to be the pre-spawn, the spawn, and the post-spawn. Now, for crappie getting in huge schools on staging areas, what you're really talking about is the pre-spawn. So pre-spawn can be anywhere from 45 degrees to 60 degrees, but when that water temperature hits about 50 degrees in that range, you are in prime pre-spawn water temps for crappie to be schooling up. Now, keep in mind that these pre-spawn water temperatures, you're really going to be focused on areas of deep water, like winter holding grounds. This is where fish can move vertically in the water column up and down to find those stable, more comfortable water conditions. Also keep in mind, no matter how comfortable you are in the air, the water temperature is going to warm up much, much slower than the air. So even though you have one day where it's nice and warm and 3 days when it's freezing cold at night, that water temperature is not going to warm up that quickly. So keeping in mind that you're fishing in more typical winter holding grounds is really going to be key for you to find these fish as they school up in staging areas. The crappie are going to want to do three things in this order in the springtime. They're going to want to warm up, right? They got to get their body temperatures up so their metabolism gets up so they can feed. And they can feed more heavily to put on some weight in order for them to do the spawn, which is the motivation of the springtime. First, if they have a really warm day where that sun's really beating up on the water, those fish are going to rise vertically in that colder water, 45 degrees to 60 degrees, in the pre-spawn. If the temperatures drop really cold at night, those fish are going to go deeper in the water column. And again, that'll be in the interest of raising their body temperature during the spring so that they could start to feed. And then, of course, they could get rid of their eggs and spawn. All right, and so now that we understand a little bit about how these crappie are going to react in this early spring time period in the pre-spawn, now we got to find areas where they actually can move vertically up and down in the water column to find that comfort zone. Now, the easiest way to do this, if you're on a large body of water like a river, a large reservoir, or a big lake or something like that, is to find the main river channel or the creek channel, because that is going to be the deepest part of your body of water that you're fishing on. Now, next what you can do is, again, you want to find deep water adjacent to shallow water here, is you can find secondary structures, things like shallow water points that stick into that main body of water, or things like bluffs where that creek channel runs right up against the bank. Any structure like that where you do have that deep water with a secondary structure could really help out in locating these fish right off the bat. Now, if you're fishing in a man-made structure like a man-made pond or a lake or just a natural lake where you don't have that creek channel running through it, there's a couple of tricks that you could use to find deeper holes in a lake where you could target some of these fish. One is just trying to find some holes and deeper points in a lake that you could find with your eyes when the wind is blowing. So typically speaking, and I teach this all the time when I'm teaching saltwater fishing as well, when that wind blows, you can kind of see these little eddies and stuff forming in the middle of your pond or your lake. Now, the biggest trick here of all, of course, is just using your eyesight again and looking at the bank. Whatever you're seeing on the bank will typically mimic what is under the water. For example, if I'm standing on flat land and I'm fishing, the chances are in the water is also going to be flat, just the same as where I'm standing. If I'm fishing on a steep bank and that drops really sharply off into the water, well, chances are in the water, it's going to continue to sharply drop off into deeper water. So now we can find some deep water. We can find some deep water adjacent to shallow water, but now you have your secondary structures you really have to consider. Now, anywhere where you have standing vertical structure is going to be ideal in these deeper waters with access to shallow water. This could be a long dock, a dock that sticks out into deeper water. That's perfect. Crappie love hard structure. If you have concrete anywhere in your ponds or lakes that is in deep water, that is pretty much where you're gonna find a lot of these fish. So now we have our deep water, we have it adjacent to shallow water, we know our vertical structures are gonna hold fish. What else can you look for? Well, to be blunt, the sun. The sunlight is going to dictate everything in the spring, right? The longer days are triggering all the birds and squirrels and trees and flowers and everything to get into spring mode. And again, what you see above the water is happening below the water, and those fish are doing the exact same thing. They are responding to the extra long sunny days. So what that means for you is you should look for areas on your lake where that sun is coming up over the lake. The more sunshine is shined on that lake, especially with the structures we're talking about, that is going to be key for finding these fish as well. So now you got the fish location down, but now you got a variety of depth that you're fishing. Remember, you're fishing these deep holes. Well, now is the critical step that everybody misses, and that is finding that strike zone, even though you found that pre-stage area. But the best way to find a strike zone of a crappie is a peg float, a simple jig head with a piece of soft plastic. And this is where suspend fishing comes into play, where you're literally going to dangle that lure in front of their face until that crappie hits it. If you don't get any bites, they're probably lower in the water column. You just slide that peg float and you drop it a little bit deeper. Then if you catch a fish, boom, there's your hint. You know where the strike zone is, and you just replicate it over and over and over again, and you catch a ton of fish. Now I'm going to piece this all together for you right here. I'm going to show you exactly how this works. Okay, so take a look at this body of water right here. This is actually a very big pond. There are two ponds connected, separated by a road. We got the wind blowing from north to south here across both these lakes. So right away, it's early spring. It's very cold. You can tell by the clothes we're wearing it's cold. And so I know I need to find wind-protected shorelines with deep water and secondary structure. So we start fishing with that peg float and a soft plastic that's actually a crappie magnet on a 164-ounce Bobby Garland jig head. We throw that out there, we don't catch any fish. Okay? Well, I know they're probably deeper because it's really cold, so I adjust that peg float, I throw it back out there, Ben catches his first fish. Now I know the depth those fish are willing to take a bait, and so I just replicate it. So I catch another one. And then my 2-year-old joins, and she could catch a fish. We're using ultralight gear. The lowest diameter line you can get away with is what I recommend. When the fish are cold, they want low diameter line. I use 2-pound test line. I use very light jig heads, and this is the deepest part of the lake. It's protected from the wind, and it's got that hard structure, and you can just catch loads and loads of fish. So now a key point to any fishing, right, and that 90-10 rule that I talk about all the time is you don't want to walk around the whole pond and fish everything. Keep in mind, you're suspend fishing. These fish are not moving around a lot, and they're moving vertically in the water column. You need to pinpoint those locations where you really think those fish are, and then use the weather to dictate which side of the lake you're going to target active fish on. So what I want to do is I want to target areas where I know those fish are going to be protected, feel most comfortable, and be looking to feed a little bit. And that's exactly how I select this spot. I didn't walk around anywhere. This was the first spot, and this was the last spot because I kind of had this honed in before we ever showed up. And that pre-trip planning is so key to not wasting your time and just getting on these fish. And you can do that very easily if you follow all those steps that we just talked about. If you want to see this in action even more so in early spring fishing, go ahead and click on this video right here where my even younger son was able to just annihilate crappie after crappie after crappie with almost little effort, and they were just on it because we use these exact same tactics. All right, fish lots, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you out there on the water.